so much for joining with us this evening. A lot of us have worked with inmates in prisons, and so we see people come and go, but we don't always know, if ever, exactly what someone is experiencing before and after we visit them. Many are dealing with the immoral character traits that got them put into prison in the first place, traits that remain largely invisible to the inmate. I would just say sin traits, if you will, which need to be uncovered and self-seen. And tonight I'll be talking with Eddie Ellis, who spent several decades in prison, and he can definitely shed some light on prison life, both before and after one's character has been transformed. And Eddie is also the author of this enlightening book right here. It's called Change is Possible. I Never Gave Up. And highly recommend that you get that. We will be putting this on our website, so you can find it there. And so good to see you, Eddie. Thank you so much for being with us.
Pleasure.
So let's just start right off at the kind of at the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your childhood growing up?
Yes, thank you for allowing me to be in the space with you all. My name is Eddie Ellis. I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. And coming up as a child, like I told Dave, all I wanted to really be was a football player, basketball player, because the athletes that I saw, late 70s, early 80s athletes, they were a part of the community. They were staples of community. They came in the community to talk to kids, to help kids out, to show kids different ways. And, I had a chance as a child to go to, at the time, Washington Redskins camp under Joe Gibbs when he was a coach, who's one of my favorite coaches and favorite people. And I saw, the work that a lot of the players did that was on the Washington Redskins team, how they came to the community, they talked to kids, they showed kids different ways and different opportunities outside of what they saw. And as a child, I lost my father when I was 2. My father was gunned down when I was 2 years old. My mom, young mother, they had me when I was 20 years old. She was in college, going to school at the time and trying to now figure out how to raise a child on her own. And she did everything she could, put me in tennis, karate, after school programs, took me to trips. Then I had a younger brother, the same thing. She done everything she could as a child, as a mother, and try to get me emotional support, through the faith community and through therapists. And I just didn't trust the therapist. I didn't know, I didn't have the words as a child to talk to the therapist about what I was feeling and what I was going through. Um, Around the age of 10, my best friend was killed while sleeping in the bed. Um, it really changed the trajectory of my life as a young person emotionally, because I didn't have anyone I felt I could really express what I was feeling. I talked to my mom and she did her best, but my mother was still trying to heal with, the death of my father. She had to just pick up and go on as a mother, um, and not really receiving the support that she needed emotionally. So, growing up, I was a fun kid. I loved the outdoors, loved to have fun, loved to fish, loved my friends, loved sports, loved school. Um, I got turned on to horseback riding early on in my elementary years. I love horses. And but around the age of 13, 14, I started running into really an emotional wall where I couldn't explain what I was really feeling as a child. And I talked to my mother somewhat about what I felt. But I remember one day vividly, my mother talking to me about what happened to my father. And I remember my mother crying. And I said, I don't never want to talk to my mother about anything that's going to make her cry.
Mhm.
And so I didn't share a lot of the things that I went through as a child. I told the therapist anything I thought that I was supposed to tell her, but not really be honest about what I was really feeling because I didn't trust the space.
Mm.
And it had really nothing to do with the therapist. I think it had more to do with me as an immature child, not knowing how to express those things. So um, I was locked up at the age of 15 for an armed robbery with 3 other people. We were in a cab going to the movies. Police stopped the cab. Cab driver jumped out and ran. Police, drew their guns and get out the car. We got out the car, and the police saying, where's the gun? We don't have a gun. We don't have a gun. They searched the car, and they said, where's the weed? And I was honest. I said, officer, I smoked a joint of weed before we got in the cab, so you may smell it on me. And they go into the car, search the car, no gun, go into the trunk and find a duffel bag with weed in it. So they lock us up for armed robbery, pending fingerprints, marijuana charge. Never been in the system before, never been in trouble with the law before. And while I was in the juvenile system, I remember my mother used to say, it's a problem, go to an adult and talk to an adult. And that's all I thought about. I'm gonna go to an adult and talk to him. I'm like, hey, I don't know why I'm here. We didn't do anything. And the adult said, well, that's what all y'all say, you know. And I just became frustrated. And that's the first time I ever dealt with solitary confinement because I lashed out and said some wrong things I shouldn't have said, and they put me in solitary. So I stayed down there. I turned 16 actually in this juvenile facility. Then I went to court August 24th, 1991. And the judge said, none of y'all fingerprints are on the trunk, on the bag, the same fingerprints that are on the trunk, on the steering wheel. No gun, so we're letting you go. And I remember the judge said, Mr. Ellis, are you happy? And I said, no. And my mother's looking at me like, are you crazy? But I wasn't happy because I was put in here for something I didn't do. So I wasn't happy. Now I'm dealing with other frustrations and depressions that I, built up while in solitary confinement, while in this facility. And leaving there, I had to enter Job Corps because I was out of school for a while. So my mother said, no, you're going to some type of educational environment. You can't get back in school. We get you in Job Corps, into school, open back up, and then we put you back in school. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. I didn't get to go back to school. I left Job Corps. And on December 20th, 1991, a friend and I was walking down the street, and a guy pulled a gun on us. And I had a gun, and I pulled a gun, and I fired the gun, and the guy was hit. And I take full responsibility for everything that took place that day. And he lost his life. And, my life changed from that point. I didn't know he lost his life at the time. I found out 3 hours later when I was arrested, me and my friend. And, my life changed. I found that I took someone's life. I'm responsible for taking his life, for hurting his family, for hurting my own family. And there was a whole lot that I had to deal with at that time as a child.
Well, let me just ask you, because you now have all this time to think about things. What do you think was really going on in your early life that led you to get in trouble, that ultimately got you in trouble with the law?
I think there's many things. I think environmental things.
Yeah.
I think environment. I think me, because when I looked at my friends that were selling drugs, I wasn't doing it at first. They were my friends. We played football together. We played basketball together. So they wasn't bad people to me, right? They didn't do that around me. I just knew that they was doing these things, right? And I kept being friends with them, right? And as a young person, I didn't have the mental capability to say, I'm no longer your friend because you're selling drugs, right? I didn't have that. I was an outspoken child, but I was also a very loyal child. I was a loyal person to my friends, to people that I cared about. And I didn't see them as bad people, right? I just didn't want to do what they was doing.
Right.
I didn't, perceive them as being bad people. But my mother moved me from DC, which at the time DC was unfortunately was murder capital. She moved us to Silver Spring, Maryland, to a suburban area that was supposed to be better. But that was the first place I saw somebody snort cocaine, was in this suburban school, right?
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
very influential area that had a lot of money, a lot of different, businesses that I'd never been around, different cultures,
Mhm.
religions, and it was different.
Mhm.
It was different, and I wasn't accepted there, even with teachers. Don't bring the DC stuff here. And I'm like, dang, I had never been in
Wow.
trouble at the time. These adults telling me these things. So, but I think it
Mhm.
was a lot of things. I think not being able to, express myself allowed me to
Mhm.
become more vulnerable as a child, right? Being loyal to my friends when I knew I should have just said, I shouldn't be around people who do this,
Yeah.
right? So it's the immaturity as a child that allowed me to do these things,
Yeah.
right? And there's
Yeah.
no excuse to it, but it's a reality that brain science show that kids up to a certain age are very immature and make
Yeah.
immature decisions.
Right. Yeah. Without anybody to bounce them off of, and without your ability to even vocalize what's going on the inside. Yeah, that's definitely, I know that from my own life. Um, so you shot a man and he died, and so you obviously you went to prison, and
Mhm.
so what was prison life like for you when you were first incarcerated?
Yeah, first, the experience of just getting the handcuffs on me and my co-defendant, they took us down to the homicide building. And they're asking questions, and I said, I don't really have anything to say. I would rather speak in front of a lawyer. I don't really have anything to say.
Mm,
And I remember that like the officer said, well, your friend said that you done this and you done that, and I just said, well, you can believe whatever you want to believe that he said, and the officer said, you want to be a smart person, I'm gonna get you charged as an adult because I
mm,
was still in the cusp where, excuse me, in DC you could be charged as a juvenile. So I went to court, and that was a recommendation of the police to the prosecutors to the judge, which is Title 16 in DC, and they charged me as an adult. And it was depressing. And I went to DC jail, held in a juvenile block. The top tiers were juveniles, the bottom tiers were adults. That was on lockdown, and it was depressing. It was
yeah.
very depressing. It was very depressing. But I knew for me at that moment, when I went to jail, I had no hair on my face. I was probably like 99 pounds, uh,
Wow.
probably about 5'6", 5'7", and I just knew for me that no matter what, I had to defend myself. I had to stand up for myself. But the first 2 days, all I did was sleep
Mm,
through the stress, you
mhm,
know, trying to just wrestle with my reality, um,
mhm,
and thinking about the harm that I just caused to someone, um, to their family, the
mhm,
disappointment, I've laid out for my family, uh, leaving at the time, my little brother, he was 10 years old, leaving him,
mhm,
and so it was hard. It was hard, but I knew people who were there, who were
mhm,
friends from different neighborhoods that are now facing the same charges that I'm facing. Some were released and found not guilty, and some was found guilty. And the only thing I knew that at that time it was a tier full of kids who was facing. Everybody was facing life in
mm,
prison,
wow.
and it was just fortunate going through trial that we went for a self defense claim, but we had a one jury verdict, and a one jury verdict means if my co-defendant is found guilty, I have to be found guilty, and vice versa. We tried to get
Uh-huh.
a separate trial. Um, we couldn't get a separate trial, so we went to court, and The witness testified after witness testified saying the guy pulled the gun. Somebody took the gun off of him. So the police did not find the gun, but the government witness said they saw people take something off from that was silver and ran.
Mm,
And it was just a whole lot. And the jury found us guilty on manslaughter,
mm,
which is one of the lower charges, which carried close to 35 years. But the victim impact statement, the victim's aunt asked the judge to have leniency on us because we were children, hoping that we would do something with our life after our
yeah,
prison term.
yeah.
And so the judge gave us 22 years in
Mm,
prison, and I served 15 years of the 22 years. I survived 10 years of solitary confinement,
mm.
6 years in the
Wow,
highest level prison in the United States in Florence, Colorado. And this year,
wow.
my 19th year home.
Mm, wow. Looking back, if you had a chaplain or a counselor during your early days in prison, what could they have done to help you begin to change your life?
Uh, we had some chaplains there and some counselors, but the caveat to that is most of the people that came in them situations became a part of the system.
Ooh,
So
okay.
when you talk to them, you can you can have conversation with some of them where I'm depressed today, I'm sad today, and you'll end up on suicide watch, right? So a lot of people didn't trust the relationships because
Hmm.
it wasn't a separate relationship.
Yeah,
It became like I work for the jail.
right.
I'm a jail chaplain or I'm a jail person. So it's like you're dealing with a correctional officer in a sense,
Mm,
right? But to say that, I've met some awesome chaplains. I met some awesome correctional officers who
yeah,
were who were good people,
yeah,
who really spoke to us, who really helped us and talked to us about life, changing life. What
yeah.
would that look like? And for me, what I think you're trying to get to, if you have the right people in there who are able to use their power and not the power of the system, it
Hmm.
would be an awesome environment and situation for people.
But what could have reached you, do you think? What if you were to dream up this ideal chaplain, what would have made some kind of a difference right there?
I think somebody I know that wasn't fully connected to the system, but somebody
Okay.
that I know was coming in to help
Hmm.
me understand what it means to be a healing person, a better person,
Mm,
to change my life, to repent for the things that I've done. Um, and the ones that I've met that was good people, they played that role. They they
wow.
they played that role. They were really good people. They were people that you wanted to just talk to, say hi to,
Yeah.
right? How you doing? How's life out there in the world? I had a chaplain used to because I like nature, and he used to always bring me pictures of the
Mm,
trees, of the water, of
mm,
birds, and that was for me healing for
wow.
me
Wow.
because we couldn't have some of these things in certain prisons,
Yeah.
coming through the mail. But I used to see these things, and it was a part of my healing, my spiritual healing.
Yeah.
So they play a very vital role in these
Right.
spaces. They
Yeah.
do.
So, when you were in prison initially, how did you deal with prison culture? Did you even know there was such a thing? And then did you go along with it? If so, how did it change who you were?
Yeah, I knew it was a prison culture because when you were young in certain communities, you hear about prison. You hear about people going to prison, and when you
Mhm.
go into the jails, the conversation is being had. Jail is different from prison. Here's some of the things that happens in jail. When you're
Mhm.
in jail, you're not just when you're in prison, you're not just around people your age. You're around people who've been in jail for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. You're around everybody. People
Yeah.
get hurt. People are assaulted. Some people die in jail.
Mhm.
And again, my mentality was I got to defend myself. I got to protect myself. I don't want to get hurt in here. I don't want to die in jail. And early on, I was in a lot of fights in jail. I was in a lot of fights, on the basketball court and fights, in the dormitories and fights,
Mhm.
And then after a while, when you get I'm gonna use the word loosely, seasoned as a seasoned person from being in an environment. Sometimes you don't have to go through that no more.
Mm,
Sometimes you don't. And
mm,
once I started getting, somewhat seasoned as a person being in jail, I started to program more, uh, go to church, go to chaplain. I'm exercising. I'm reading. I'm in, Unicorn where you can go work. And I wanted to do things where I didn't have to be around and just be sitting around all the time.
yeah.
And after a while, I decided to start to just change my life. I started to change my life, and then you know, DC prisons closed. They closed all DC prisons to this day. So DC only has a jail. They don't have any
Hmm.
prisons no more. So they contracted with, at the time it was Correctional Corporation of America, which is a privatized prison
Yeah.
system,
Yeah.
and they sent us across the country to different prisons, private prisons, and I was sent to Youngstown, Ohio. And while in Youngstown, Ohio, I see the parole board because I've been in for years now. I got a chance to see the parole board, and the parole board people told me that I'm giving you parole, and so I'm
Mm,
happy. You got 90 days, you'll be going home, and I said okay. So what I did was I reduced everything I had. Sending all my legal papers home. My pictures and stuff, sending them home. Just kept one photo album, and I started just giving stuff away. Because the less stuff I
mm,
have, the better. I'm
mhm,
just worried about going home. And unfortunately, it didn't happen then. Somebody was stabbed and killed in prison, and they started grabbing anyone, lock the unit down, grabbing everybody. And what they did was they tried to look at everybody's time. We found out in court, they looked at people's time. Okay, he has 50 years. He has 100 years. He has 2 life sentences. He had 5 months to go home. He just made parole. So they want me to tell and I don't know anything. I don't know what happened. Um, I don't have anything to say. And
mm,
they took 5 or 6 of us to court because we decided to do that. Even though one person said he done it, I done it. They had nothing to do with this. And so me sitting here now in prison, prepared to go home. And at this time, my mother had another baby, which is my baby brother, my youngest one. And I told him that I would be home to teach him how to ride a bike.
mhm,
And that's all I was focusing on, to go home.
mhm, mhm. Because you've been given parole. You had a
I
date.
was given parole. I had a date. I was going home. And
Wow.
life just turned upside down. And
Mm,
and I tell people this, like, I don't subscribe to street stuff anymore. But when you involved in or around these type of things, certain principles you stand on, and certain things you do, and certain things you don't do. And I decided to stand on principles where I'm not going to involve myself in any of these things. But when
mm.
you don't do that, it's consequences behind it. You know,
So stop right there because I want to ask you about that because that to me that's a hugely important part here. What was it in you or in your heart, your mind that wanted to stop being the person that you had become?
I knew that's what
What were the thoughts that were causing you to realize that you didn't like you?
I knew that's what who I was. I knew that's wasn't who I was raised to be. I knew I was better than the way that I act out, and I was acting out.
Yeah.
And I went back to basic things that my mother and grandfathers taught me and told me. And I said, oh, I started questioning everything. Wow, this ain't who I am. I
Yeah.
can be better than this. I am better
Yeah.
than this.
Yeah.
And that's why I started leaning on through the process of everything. And I just said, I never lost faith in God through none of these processes. But
Hmm.
I questioned, why is this happening to me right now?
Mm.
And what I realized was at the time of that case in Ohio, my heart wasn't changed. And I
Wow.
thought that I was in control of everything,
How did you know
right?
that? Well, how
Because
did
I
you
sat and
actually know
talked to
that?
myself. I sat and talked to myself. And I realized that I was still trying to surround myself with people who were doing the wrong things. I was still communicating with people who were doing the wrong
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
And I just said
yeah,
to myself, like, I thought I was going to go out here with my mind and heart not in the right place. And
yeah.
my mother told me one day, she prayed to God that I didn't come home until I was changed. And I
Well,
said, Mom, I'm glad you didn't tell me that when I was in jail, because I probably would have never spoke to you again if you would
yeah.
have told me that, because I understand what happens in prison and the conditions in prison. And to know that you prayed to God for that, I would have felt like you crossed me. But really, my mother wanted her child to come home that she raised and not
Mm,
someone that was doing these other things. But I
mm,
just stayed faithful through the process. And but again, like I said, I was sent to Florence, Colorado, which is the highest level prison in the United States. And
mm,
from I did 4 years of solitary before then, and I did 6 years solitary there. And I had a chance to look at myself in the mirror. I had a chance to deal with my realities and be real about what I wanted to do and who I wanted to become. And
mm.
that's what I started to focus on. I started to focus on who I wanted to become. Why is these things important to me? Understanding that, you know, you can do better. You can be better,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's what I started focusing on.
Mm. If you could, because you've done this, but if you could create the steps, let's say, for transformation, for a heart transformation, what would those steps be? I mean, you said the first one there was examining yourself. You gave yourself a pretty good looking over.
Yeah, that's where I would start at. Where I am, what am I doing with myself at the time? What's in my heart?
Yeah.
Um, and then I went from there. That's where it starts at. It can't come for me, it couldn't start from nowhere else. I had to start with myself first. What am I willing to do for myself right now? What do I want for my life? Right? How do I see myself in the next few years? Right? Is this what I really want for myself? To be free, to be a better person, right?
Mm.
To change, right? To plant seeds in life that's worth growing, right? And producing. And I mean seeds, I mean things, good things, to be good to people, right? And to want that back from other people. And that's what I focused on. That's what I focus on.
Okay, but you're in prison though. So
Yeah.
you got people that may not like you changing you. Is that right? Did you have people
Oh,
that go, "What are you doing? You're not. Do you think you're better than us? I mean, you must have gotten a lot of some kind of flack coming back
yeah.
from wanting to be different.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot. See, and like out in the street, like how you talked about Ronnie Lott and how Ronnie Lott was good.
Yeah.
So you can build reputation up in many environments that some people may say, "Oh, he's changing," but some people might say he's still capable of defending himself.
Mm.
And then some people might also say that he's aligned with a lot of people that's willing to defend him and defend it and defend themselves. So, but for me, I had friends that I wrote letters to like 30 people and said, listen, I found myself and what I want to do with my life. I'm changing who I am. And I hope that you one day find the strength to do the same for you. I love you for who you are, but I can't associate with you
Mm.
if you choose to live or think a certain way.
Mm.
And I remember 5 letters that got back was almost the same letter. Why you turning on me? And they made it more about themselves
Yeah.
than about me.
Right.
And I didn't respond to none of those letters
Mm.
because I said what I needed to say. I'm
Yeah.
changing my life. I want to do better. I want to be better. But saying it is one thing, meaning it is another. Because saying it put me in a situation where I had to lay down. I had to become vulnerable
Yeah.
and lay
In
down a lot
prison.
of things. Yes, yes, yes. And
Not
possibly put
good.
myself in
Not a good
danger.
place to be vulnerable, right?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. But I became vulnerable. But I always told myself, nowhere in the Bible or no religion that say you can't protect yourself. I won't lead with that. I'm gonna lead with peace and love. But I'm gonna fight for my life if I have to fight for my life.
Mm.
And that was my motto. That's my motto today. If I have to protect my wife and kids, I'm gonna do that with my life.
Mm.
And I ask God to give me the strength to do that. But
Mm.
first, I always lean on peace and respect. Period. And if I know I can't get that from a person, I normally stay away from them people because I know you're not the people or person I want to be around. And that's what I did in prison. And some of my friends started to do the same thing. Man, he can do it. I can do it.
Wow, really?
And we
Did
challenged
they
it.
ask you questions? Did they you have conversation?
Yes. Why are you doing it? What
Yeah,
do you, are you doing this to get out the Supermax?
yeah,
I'm like, no, I really want to just be better.
yeah,
I just really want to just do better for myself. I want to go home. I want to see what it feel
yeah.
like to be free as an adult. You know,
Did you know what you wanted to be?
no,
I mean, there was nothing. There wasn't. You just knew you wanted to be different.
yeah, I just knew I wanted to be a different person. I didn't know
Yeah,
what I wanted to do for work. I didn't know anything. I just
mhm,
knew let's
yeah,
start here. Let's be simple
yeah, yeah,
and start here, right? This is the base. You're the base. Start
yeah.
with yourself, your faith, what you're doing, how you're showing up. Educate yourself more, learn everything you can learn, and then let everything else, come in line. And that's what I did.
You sort of let God took over.
Yes, yes,
I love that. That happened to me. That same thing when my transformation happened too, because it was like I was dying in my backyard, and I told you about that. But
yes.
the first thing that happened when I left my old self right there, because I had to and I wanted to, because I saw what it was. It was amazing that I didn't know what I was going to be, but I knew it wasn't going to be that anymore.
Right, right.
And that's when God got in there because that was a big, huge empty bowl. There's nothing in it. Something had to fill it. And that I think is what you're saying here is that wow, God came and did something good. How do you help others now to challenge and change their character traits so that they can find that same experience that you did?
You know what I learned through this process, like not the people when people normally deal with folks who are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated, they deal with them with a judgmental tongue, in the sense of condemning, a condemning tongue.
Yeah,
We all judge. I judge the way a person lives. If you don't live according to where I don't want to be around it. That's a judgment. I'm not condemning you.
right.
But some people live with a condemning tongue that's very dangerous. And what I learned was, how do I approach people that's in these
Mm,
situations? It's the
mm,
approach that matters. I'm not approaching you with a condemning thought, mindset, or tongue. I'm approaching you saying, hey, we can do different. Change is possible. Like my book say, it's possible. But it's steps you have to take. And I started while on parole, talking to other folks while that was on parole. And my parole officer at the time said, hey, how about every time you come down here, we give y'all space in the room and y'all just talk?
mm,
And I said, okay. So I started talking to people about changing, about how to empower yourself while on parole, how to take control of you being on parole, right? If something's wrong, we can advocate together to try to, fix this thing. And it was just helping empower people who felt like they didn't have any power while on parole or because of what they've done.
mm.
And once I started doing that, I started getting into trainings with probation officers. I did trainings with social workers. I did trainings with lawyers. And I became a part of national legal aids to be a part of client center trainings and all these things. But I had to be an example of what that looked like. I can't keep telling you
Yeah.
that I'm changing, but you don't see no change in me, right?
Mm,
And then, because a lot of people say I'm a part of the community, but you don't know nobody in your community. You speak to them, but you don't know them. And
mm,
I wanted to show them that I, like you, made a bad choice. I take responsibility for my choice. I don't make any excuses for my choice, right? I've repented, because of the things that I did, and I asked for forgiveness. And people start just seeing it and it's like, look, I want to go with you to the program. I want to go with you to hear you speak. I want to go with you when you go help these young people. So I start showing them. Then I tell them like sweat equity, emotional equity, right? When I go in here and give myself to these spaces, this is a spiritual equity to me that I'm giving a part of myself to a space. This is why this is important, right? And now they doing it. Right. And I started fighting for people to free people. I helped create laws around juvenile life in different states to free people, and now a lot of people here in the city, they come home now and say, man, we've been watching you fight for us all these years. And now they're in the fight. So for me, it's just talking about what's important. How do you think you affected your family? How did you think you affected the people that you hurt and harmed?
Yeah.
So these are some of the things I want people to think about. To absorb and not just kick them to the side, right? And I gave my mother room to say to me, I said, Mom, I want to ask you, how did it affect you? And my mother cried and talked about, how my choices affected her. My mother said, thank you for allowing me the space to release this. And this is a part of healing. This is a part of growth.
Yeah.
Right? But we're not the only ones healing. And when we realize that, what we do affects other people.
Yeah.
And that's the conversations that I have with people to allow them to think outside of themselves while trying to support themselves in these spaces after coming home.
Yeah. We're getting kind of close to the end of our conversation here before others can ask questions. But if you had a chaplain or a counselor that was during the pre-release phase of prison life, what could they have done, to better prepare you for release?
I think for me personally, it would have been resources to understand what's out there, right? I've been gone since I was 16. I don't know what's on the street, right? I've never needed these resources before. So what type of resources are available for me, right?
Yeah.
Who can I align myself with when I come home that's been in my situation or that's helping people like me, right? I had a house to go to, so I didn't need no house. I had clothes, I had food to go to, but I needed to know where the resources, right?
Yeah.
How do I get health care?
Yeah.
Where do I get an ID from? I don't know.
Right.
Is it somebody help me use the metro transportation? I don't know how to use any of those things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How do I use the cell phone? When I went to jail, I went to jail in 1991. People had cell phones that looked like 5-pound
They were
barbells.
dialing.
Yeah. So this showed me those things. Where's that support? Is there any support that I can go to? That's what I needed in these spaces. But a lot of times folks are not getting that information to know what these things are. And that's where the danger is, where people say people don't want to do it. No, I don't know where it's at.
Yeah. Do you think that's one of the bigger reasons that people are sort of terrified? I've heard the word terrified getting released.
Yeah. Think about this. It was an old TV show, G.I. Joe, I used to love. And it was a saying that they said on G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle. Right? If I know these things are out there, I can prepare for them.
Yeah.
I'm preparing for things that I don't know what's out there.
Yeah.
And that I created my own resource book in DC for DC inmates years ago. Right? Because I wanted them to know that there's resources out there.
Yeah.
Right? And I put it in each probation office here in DC. When people come across your desk, give the book to them. Don't just tell them, give it to them.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, so
that's amazing. Thank you, Eddie. One last question. What are the most important character traits that a prison chaplain can have working with inmates?
I think somebody that genuinely want to do the job, that can genuinely do their job without being so connected to the facility, because that relationship is it's iffy. It's a trust issue.
So we have a lot of volunteer chaplains that are here tonight listening. So we're not anywhere connected to the system. So I'm just asking more about what could you advise to them what would be really, really helpful? Think about yourself. Somebody came to see you, and I did ask you that earlier, but I was just wondering if you had any other thoughts you wanted to share before we turn it over to the group.
I think just be yourself. Follow your heart in the space. Ask the person questions if it's things that you're trying to assist that person with, help that person with. Because some people think that everything is a cookie cutter when it comes to support for people. But just ask
Yeah,
the questions and just be yourself. And normally people will accept you for who you are and be very thankful and grateful to have you there supporting in some way.
yeah, that's good. Thank you, Eddie. All right, Gabriel, are you there? Gabriel usually does the this part of the meeting.
I am, and I see Ted, your hand is up.
Ted from DC.
Yes, Eddie, are you still in DC? I haven't read your book, and I've got some questions about the work that the chaplains are doing here in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area.
I'm in Montgomery County now and only Maryland now, Montgomery County.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
So just across the line.
Mhm.
Um, the I want to follow up on David's question about how the chaplains can be helpful, and there's a we've got a meeting coming up in September and then one in October with a group of law school students who are going to help guys that are coming out who want to start businesses.
Mm.
Um, and this is an entrepreneurship project, and having folks like yourself, if I don't know if you could connect with us and help with the kind of transformation that you're talking about, the moral and the self-reflection, know yourself,
Mhm.
the points that you were just making. Is there a chance that we could work together?
Yes, yes, yes. David, if you can pass my information on, or I can put it in chat.
Yeah, no, I'm his manager now, so I'll give you all the info.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely like to connect with you and support the way I can support.
Yeah, Ted,
Right.
I'll forward you his info.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And Ted is doing some really cool stuff in the Washington, D.C. jail system with kind of using games to help inmates figure out how to be on a team together instead of always against each other. Let's see,
That's
do we
good.
have other questions? Anybody who would like to raise their hand? Steve, I see your hand is up.
Yes. Thank you, Eddie. I
Okay.
appreciate the point you made about the being part of the system for chaplains, and how do you, there's the trust issue. And you probably understand, we, even as volunteers, we have to kind of play it both ways. And even as if employed staff chaplain still has to play it both ways, because we a chaplain wants to really sincerely represent the individual's interest, but also need to have the trust of the institution too.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a fine line, and I'm glad you brought that out, that we need to be aware. We have to have a professional approach to this and understand there's that kind of could be a dichotomy, but how we have to be able to balance it. So
Yes.
but I appreciate that you're bringing out that point, because as volunteers, we have to have a lot of the same kind of training as the staff does, and we're as a volunteer, as I see it, as a kind of employment, even if we're not paid. And so, but you still have to walk that and understand people may have that trust question that you somehow have to bridge. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate that statement. I mean, because when I go into jails, I take the same trainings, right? We have to take the same safety trainings and other trainings as I go into the jails. But I understand that, I have to have a neutral posture as I go in and do my work. and not have a posture just because I was formerly incarcerated. I'm gonna lean towards people that's on the inside, but having a posture that certain things I can't do, certain things I'm not gonna say or be a part of. But I just think that, sometimes, for instance, the librarian in the Supermax, I liked her as a person because she was a good person. The way she treated us, the way she spoke to us, it really said a lot about her heart and her spirit, right?
Mm.
But you see other people who really took on an energy of the system in a sense and became more harsh towards people that done nothing to you. We're just in prison. So I really understand. And I have to have that balance as well as I go to do the work and make sure that I'm neutral to the situation that's taking place. But I thank you.
Hello, can I get a sec? Yeah, thank you. I just want to introduce myself, Eddie. My name is Troy. I was also incarcerated as a 16-year-old, for murder as well, and did 30 years. So, everything that you said, man, I really can, it resonated with me. I can relate to just being thrown in those facilities as a juvenile and really having to survive, and mature and grow up and kind of go through those changes. And also, having that will to wanting to change and going through that maturation and transformation type phase, you know what I mean? So I'm just
Yeah.
glad you was on here. I was listening. Everything you said was like right on time. And I had similar experiences. I'm from California, Los Angeles, so I had a turbulent time as well going in there, as a gang member, got to fight and, prove yourself and go through all that so you can get established and just, kind of like climbing the ranks. At that time, with nobody going home. So, it was all about really surviving prison, as a young man. So I just wanted to tap in with you and just, really appreciate the interview and having this and taking the space. All right.
And I appreciate you, man. Keep
Thank
doing everything you doing and, being an example for other people. We can continue to change minds and change hearts. So I appreciate you,
you.
brother.
Yes. Yes. And I'm on y'all mailing list too. Y'all send me the mail emails off to CFSY too.
I
Yeah.
just, you know what?
I'm a
I
part
saw
of
your
it.
name. I know you are. I just looked at my membership list and I
Yeah,
just saw your name on there. And I said, I
okay.
knew I
Yeah.
saw your name. Yeah. Yeah. So we gotta
Yeah.
catch up.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
gotta catch up.
For sure. For sure. For sure. Okay.
Well, you can
Nice.
catch up next year at our conference in Boulder, Colorado. That's for sure.
I'd love to be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what
we
I'm
got you.
talking about. That's what I'm talking to invite. They go to invite. Thank you.
Let's see. Do we have any other folks who like to raise their hand? I'm not sure if Marlon, if you were,
Mark,
yeah, I do. Well, Marlon, let's go. Marlon, if you want to unmute yourself, you can, but you're muted right now. Or maybe you're getting to a quieter spot. We'll come back to you, Marlon. We'll go to Mark and then to Deb.
So, Eddie, I love that you mentioned that you had always liked nature. I don't know much about how nature has a part in prison life. I know that here in Hawaii, I volunteer pulling weeds and cutting weed trees in the zoo. And every once in a while, inmates will come in their orange coveralls and do some heavy work, cutting trees and all sorts of stuff, using weed eaters in the zoo. I wondered if there's a way to get people out in nature while incarcerated that could help them get some hope for the future of doing something outside the prison walls.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea with trying to do some stuff, even simulated stuff, because
Mm.
science talks about the importance of trees. You being able to see these things, to breathe them, to feel them. And I just thought about, like, literally 10 years I didn't see trees. I didn't touch grass. And reading about a lot of these things, the way solitary confinement can affect you, and even those things, the lack of those things, the horrible lighting, everything affects you. At least 6 out of 10 people who come home from jail got bad eyes, conditions, cell, lights, and all these things. But nature, for me, played a role in me feeling free. Even when I was in jail, when I read, I used to always daydream about things I did. One of my recreational books was Lewis Lamar books, Smokey Jensen, the Western books. I used to love Western books. And I used to always just fantasize about being a cowboy, about just riding, just being out in the wilderness, and I felt free. But then I realized that through scripture, that's what that's about, freeing yourself, taking the chains off, right? Those spiritual chains that's not good for you, but keep the ones that is good, and just live life. Because some people are free in the world, but spiritually and emotionally incarcerated. And I just say I want to find a way to free myself, and through nature, through experience, through walk, through scripture. And we do down here in DC, we do a lot of freedom walks. We send out mass emails, texts. Hey, we meeting here on this trail, and we going walking. And we have different faiths, funders, people who've been impacted, even people we ain't know used to join us this walk. And it was about just bringing the community together, having conversation, becoming proximate with each other, but also feeling free while we're doing it. And that's what I love so much about nature, that freeness. And I think if we can bring some of these things into institutions, because most people will come home. So the object should be to help people become better people, to help people heal, to have social emotional programs, training programs, spiritual programs, healing programs for people to be able to heal and come through the process and be better people. But unfortunately, when you have a system that's built around money, it's not like that. Our prison system is a money cow system that uses a lot of money, taxpayers' money, to do a whole lot of things. But I think there's a lot of people like you all in community that want to help people become better. And that's why I say, the things that you all are doing is so vital and so important. Just to know someone care, just to know that it's someone who will listen to you, just to know that someone will help you understand what this verse is, or have you have a question people can ask. It's so vital. But to feel alone with no hope, with no outlets, what do we expect? What do we expect?
Deb, I see your hand is up.
I hate to sort of go backwards, but this question, Eddie, how is it that you spent so much time in solitary confinement? I mean, isn't that considered, I mean, nowadays it's considered to be so terribly detrimental, even though it was detrimental way back when. But how is it that you were in solitary so much?
Well, when the situation happened in Ohio, because I didn't want to tell, and the system put me in solitary confinement, saying that I was a threat because I didn't want to tell.
Oh, wow.
I stayed in solitary confinement. And when they closed our system, when they sent us back from Ohio, only part of our prison open was the Supermax, where we are back home. So when it was time to go to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, my custody level never changed. It was still maximum custody. And that's how I went to the Federal Bureau of Prisons in solitary confinement up until 90 days before I came home. But they just kept me there, even no trouble, no write-ups in solitary, anything. And they just kept me there, and it got to the point where my last 2 years, I sent a card to Hallmark that I wanted to make in honor of my mother. And the jail wrote me up and said that I was trying to create a business inside of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And I'm like, wow, y'all just want to just keep me. And I just say, you know what? This is not my fight no more. My fight is to stay grounded, stay faithful, keep my head down, keep studying, keep doing what I'm doing, fighting to get out. Every month I send a letter to the warden. Can I get out of solitary confinement? I haven't been in trouble. And they were, not looked at. But the good thing about it is that I wasn't broken. I was allowed to grow and mold myself in ways that I didn't think I could. And one of the wardens that was the warden in Florence, Colorado, he coined the prison the clean version of hell. He contacted me some years ago and was like, I've been watching you and you're doing awesome work. So me and this warden, we communicate with each other now. And it's like, he didn't know me personally. I didn't know him. He was just a warden of a jail. And he told me, he said, Eddie, they don't expect people to come home from this prison and do good. And I told him, I said, like, this month, the 23rd would be 19 years since I've been home. And I've been consistent in the way that I'm living, the way that I show up, what I want to do with my life. But it was solitary confinement it affected me. Isolation. I isolated myself from my family when I came home and didn't realize it. I get my food and go up to my room and close the door. And my younger brother was like, Mom, Eddie, I think Eddie mad. And I'm in the room. I'm like, I'm not mad. And I'm talking to myself. Well, go out there and tell him you're not mad. And when I said, no, I'm not mad. I'm just used to being in my room. And from that day forth, I started to pay more attention to how I isolate myself and really didn't realize how I was separating myself from my family. But solitary is very harmful. But I just thank God that I did what I need to do to make sure I'm okay.
Thank you.
I've got a question, Eddie. Can you tell us sort of just at a high level what the campaign for fair sentencing of youth that you're involved with, kind of how that works, what's going on with that, and how's that going?
It's going well. It's going well. Campaign for Fair Sentencing for Youth was created in 2009. I'm not sure if most of you are familiar with Brian Stevenson. They created around him Just Mercy, but Brian Stevenson fought in the Supreme Courts around children being sentenced to death. And from death became more life without parole sentence when it was granted to say children should not be sentenced to death. And so more children started being sentenced to life without parole or de facto life sentences. And the campaign was built to help fight some of those things. There was a lot of advocates around the country who came together along with Brian Stevenson to help create the campaign. And we just try to fight to ban life without parole for children 17 and younger around the country. When we normally do work, we go in communities and connect with partners who are already doing the work and support them on the ground with the work. And we go in and try to ban laws. We support a lot of amicus briefs. Some stuff we don't do, we don't talk about publicly as we support partners. We just do the work behind the door. But when we do stuff that's forward facing, we make sure that family members are involved. Folks who were impacted by youth violence is involved, and those who are inside of prisons are involved as well to uplift and use those voices. But we support family members of folks who are in and who are home, people who are survivors of violence, of youth violence. And we do a whole lot of work. We do training. We have like Troy's an ICAN member, which stands for Incarcerated Children Advocacy Network. And we have over 300 members across the country who are doing awesome work in the communities, giving back to the community, changing lives. And we just believe in empowering folks not trying to take their voice, make sure they're at the table, that they're able to speak for themselves and be a part of the work. But we're just a small organization that's a part of a bigger mission to try to ban life without parole and tell people that children are children. Children can never be adults. Children can make horrible decisions. But because a child makes a horrible decision, a child can never be an adult. That's why we have laws in places to protect children. Children can't vote, can't drive, can't smoke, can't do a whole lot of things until a certain age. But yet, as a country, we decide to charge children as adults, which is backwards to me, and we believe that there's other alternatives that can happen to support children and the people who were harmed in these spaces. Because most of the time, the survivors or the families of victims don't get the support that they truly deserve. And we believe that they deserve to be loved, to be supported, to be respected. And that's why from, the start of our organization, it was family members and survivors of youth violence there. So they are a staple in our community. So that's a lot of the work we do in a nutshell. It's a lot of wonderful work, life-changing. We do healing work. We have self-care retreats that we have yearly. We wish we can get everybody in those retreats, but yearly we have self-care retreats where this year we had 53 people, family members, survivor family members, and people who formerly incarcerated come together and talk about healing. What does it look like? What can we do? And we support each other. So we do a lot of wonderful work.
That's awesome. I put the link to your website in the chat. And I'm also, for everybody, if you open up the chat, I'm going to put the link to Eddie's book on Amazon. You can buy it. That's there too. We've got two hands up, Dana, and then we'll go to you, Susan.
Hi, Eddie. Thank
Hello.
you very much for talking to us today. I'm going into a penitentiary and a jail. And excuse me if you already covered this in your first 5 or 10 minutes, because I had a hard time getting in the Zoom, but what three messages can I pass on to somebody that's inside that, hey, this guy was in solitary for 10 years. What three messages can you say, to them, like how to follow your life?
I would just say, give yourself an opportunity to do something different, first and foremost. Believe that change is possible and surround yourself with people who are trying to do the right thing. Those are things that I would start with, because a lot of times it's people in my neighborhood who never been out the neighborhood as children. And I didn't know this until we got older. We went on family trips. They never went on family trips. So understand there's something different. You can be different. You can do different. Believe in yourself. Have hope in yourself. Surround yourself with positive people. Lean into your faith. Ask questions. When you need support, reach out for support. So that's the things that I would tell people, that's still, behind the wall,
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. So that was great. I don't need to take a lot of your time, but that was perfect for other chaplains that are going in, can just give that message. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan, see your hand is up.
Thank you also from me. I have been going into a prison for about 10 years. And I'm realizing that, a couple of things. One man that I visit now regularly had a compatriot in prison who was very wise about the legal system. Mm-hmm. And did a great deal of research to help him help my friend understand how he could go about getting either we don't have parole in Washington, we have probation, but anyway, mm-hmm. that helping to understand the system better, mm-hmm. And not try to challenge it, but to understand it, to be able to work with it. Then secondly, a very powerful book that I just finished reading is called Bringing Ben Home by Barbara Haggerty. And it's about a man who was absolutely, totally innocent, but was incarcerated for 34 years and never gave up working toward getting out, and worked with the Innocence Project, which has its ups and downs, I guess. But that's been, that was very eye-opening to me, because she talks about a lot of the inequities and the difficulties with witnesses lying and all kinds of things in court that are not on the up and up. So I just recommend that book to anybody on this call. Bringing Ben Home by Barbara Haggerty. And thank you again. You're an inspiration.
Thank you, man. You in Seattle, Washington?
Yes, near Seattle.
Yeah, I have some of the members in Seattle as well that's doing a lot
Really?
of work. Yes,
Oh my
around
gosh.
restorative justice. I have some that's doing work around restorative justice. One of them just got their law degree in Seattle.
Wow.
Yeah, Dolphy Jordan, he in Seattle. He does a lot of work around restorative justice. And Jeremiah Bourgeois, he just passed the bar.
Well, would I be of any value in this organization? I'm feeling like, I mean, I'm kind of a retired person who isn't.
Yes.
Well, so David, you're gonna, or Gabriel, you're gonna send
Yeah,
my,
well,
send
I
my
mean,
info to
yeah, Eddie, besides your website, do you have any direct personal contact information you'd like to share with the people on the call right now, and or who are tuning in on the video
And one last thing,
replay?
I don't want to buy anything from Amazon. So where else can I get your book?
I have books here.
Okay. So send me his info.
Okay.
I'll put it here in the chat for you.
Okay, great.
Excellent. Thanks.
Marlon's got his up too.
Marlon, I see your hands up.
Yeah. I know Susan said that, didn't think she had anything to offer. I think that is a lot of the mindset of those of us that have been incarcerated, that we don't have anything to offer. So we turn to the offer less. And I think that's the message that those going back in from the outside can try to deliver to those that are still in, because we've only known, error. That's all we've known. We haven't known how to incorporate good with consistency in a way that's meaningful to my present and my future. Sometimes we only do it for the time being, and whatever gets us through the day. But there's more than just the day that we're reaching for. And if we can send that message, and not only those going in, that maybe do workshops to engage in the workshops that others have, people can learn more about Embracefully than just those that are going out, that are inside. People will be able to, catch the whiff from the outside, and there'll be a more powerful stance of people wanting to just be involved. People don't mind getting involved if it's for righteous causes, and that's I think we just need to instill hope in people. We've forgotten how to dream. When we locked up, we've forgotten how to dream. Every little dream amounted to us being locked up, us losing family members, us separating ourselves from our kids. and things of that nature. So nothing lined up. So a dream that means nothing at that time. We're just trying to survive. And I think it'd be important just to, instill that back into those that we go back in and try and reach. Because that's what we're looking for. Something to hold on to that's meaningful.
Well, I think that's one of the most valuable things that people visiting, people writing, people sharing any amount of attention to people serving time can offer. Eddie, when you mentioned the chaplain showing you pictures of nature as just a little lifeline to life out there, I think that's just a really interesting example to consider for everybody on this call and who's watching the replay, who is going in, who is serving in this work. Just thinking about how we bring our humanity there, as well as I think, Eddie, you said it perfectly, the not losing hope, like, or finding hope after having lost hope, like finding that again. Eddie, do you have any last things you'd like to share with the group before we wrap up tonight?
Yeah, I first of all like to thank David for inviting me in this wonderful space, and for each of you for everything that you're doing and continue to do. Um, I think the work that you're doing is very selfless work. It's very important. And I remember in the yard, it was an old guy used to tell me, Eddie, keep a bag of seeds with you, and everywhere you go, plant seeds. And that's what you all are doing. You all are planting seeds of hope, seeds of life. And anytime someone is able to embrace their spirituality, that's one of the best seeds of life, period. But don't underestimate the power that you have in the work that you're doing. I always say, it's just not, don't just say volunteer. This is ministry. It's something closer than that. It's something that's very powerful in the work that you're doing. And you decided to give yourself to this work. And I feel if we continue to have more people like this, we can continue to change the world the way that we see it. The more we allow ourselves to become proximate to others, we're building with each other, and getting to know each other, right? To see the things we have in common, that we all want to be loved, treated fairly, cared for, listened to, despite of where we are, where we have been. So, and I just want to say for me, personally, if it's something I have the capacity to do, please reach out, because it's something that's very important to my heart. I always tell people that God gave me a second chance of freedom, physical freedom. And it's my duty to do what I need to do to make a difference in this world before it's my time to close my eyes. So just continue to plant seeds and be yourself. And you'll continue to see the work that you're doing, flourish, through others and through yourself. So thank you.
Bless you.
Thank
you
you
for
so
being
much,
here tonight.
Eddie.
So much.
Yeah. Well, why don't we wrap it up for tonight? I'm going to put the link, if you want to click this link in your device. This is where the video of this will be posted in probably a day or two. And you can find past interviews there as well as workshop replays, and some other pretty inspiring messages. So thank you again, everybody. I'll just say one more time, our next Angel Team meeting is going to be on August 21st, and that will be at the same time, 6 p.m. Pacific. And again, everybody is welcome to attend. So thanks,
Adrian,
everybody.
can you stay
yeah.
on for just a minute?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Good night.
Thank you so much.